there's a lot happening. There's a lot on my mind. And I'd like to go back to talking about taking the L.
Okay.
Knowing what success looks like to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, knowing what success looks like to you and how it is directly related to your ability to take an L.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because losses. So let me back up and be and kind of out myself with this. A lot of people will call me a witch, and that's not true. I am not a witch. I do not have a craft, right? All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Jenn, and that pretty much means that I do this innately,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to be more specific, I am an abyssal, and to be even more specific, I am a death Jenn.
You're a what?
I'm a death Jenn, comma Jenn. And what that means is that I deal with what comes next. I deal with the transition between the death of a phase and the beginning of another.
So like the death card in tarot, where it means
Yes,
a change and a trend, like not death, like going to the other world, but like
correct.
yeah.
This is, yes, I am that. What card is that in tarot? What number card is that?
Oh, what kind of? Oh, shoot.
No, I have tarot cards right here, so
Right. I've been
Yeah.
doing them every night. They're right next to me, but I'm like, it's major arcana. It's towards the end, I think.
Yes, it is.
The
Because
star, it's tower.
you getting your strength, you go into
13, because of course it is.
because of course it is. Yes, death. I love
Yeah.
these pulps.
Oh, those are fun.
Yeah, this is the pulp deck, and I also want to get this the Todd Alcott pulp deck, and I want to get the horror deck because
Okay.
it has like a horror movie books and
Oh, those are cool.
movie posters as
Yeah,
that.
those posters are awesome.
I know, I love these. So yes, 13, which is the Empress. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, the Emperor. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, the Emperor. It is yeah. It's that deep, dark, logical, powerful type energy. It's very logical. It follows steps. It's consistent, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of work that I do. I transition people from once they face their truth and they're like sitting in their rebel, here I come. And I help transition to the next place. And there are folks, and I also transition folks when they're not acting right. I come coming with the get right, so you can act right. And so transitioning from one thing to another is something that I can speak on because it's something that I've worked with people with to go on. Now that I've set that context, a lot of people have an idea of what success is.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have this and when I have that and when I have that, I'll be happy. No. But when people reach it and they see that it doesn't make them happy, it causes a little death. Because that's the truth. The truth is that I worked so hard for this. Why am I not getting the joy out of it that I wanted? Why am I not getting the peace? Why am I not getting the contentment? Because that's all success is. It is a practice, a set of rituals, a set of things that you do in order to give yourself security and joy. And when I look at it from that point of view, I can understand why money and those things just don't appeal to me. Right. But it does, but I'm different. Right. And to a lot of people, being known, being applauded, having lots of money, that is success. Right. And those things are absolutely essential for a lot of people to be their true authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm never going to dog that, right? I will never dog it when somebody is getting their own,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's what I want. But if you do not get what you want, if it didn't turn out the way you thought it would, a lot of people are applauding you, but that one or those two people that you really want them to see you don't.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next? Right. I faced that when I came into this because there's a lot of people around me whose success I subscribe to,
Mm-hmm.
their version of what it takes. I subscribe to, and they did well because it was truly them. It was not me because it truly wasn't. I don't want to be famous. I don't I don't want people to know who I am. I want people to enjoy my shit.
Yeah.
And I want
Yeah.
people to buy my shit. That's what it
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
want to create things that people enjoy and that people can use, right? And that will help people. And
Mm-hmm.
I do that. I've been doing that since I started, right? And I
Yeah.
love it. It's the best thing rocking. But I wasn't making money doing it. And I had to sit down with myself because money is needed. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw it. At first, I saw it as a loss. I subscribed to people saying, "Oh, you're not doing that good," and everything because I wasn't making money. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't making a lot of money. I've
Mm-hmm.
never, um, I've never gone into the black due to my products.
Okay.
They always pay for themselves,
Okay.
all right? And a little left over to do the next thing. That's always been the thing. And I think it needed to be that way. I was mad for it being that way for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Resentful, I think. And not resentful for anyone who's succeeding, but more so just resentful that I couldn't be that. That those things didn't I was mad because those things didn't make me happy. Those things did not give me joy. Right. And I had to sit with myself and say, well, why are you mad? I'm like, honestly, why aren't you happy that you're getting to know who you are?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Why, when you're seeing that it isn't working because you are intrinsically this thing, why are you getting mad at you instead of changing the thing that you're supposed to be doing? And that took a long time because the environment, especially the one I was in with a lot of high powered, highly driven men and women,
Mm-hmm.
right, whose work ethics and their smarts and their intelligence I deeply admire, present tense. And I was honestly thinking there was something wrong with me. I'm like, how is it that if I am the sum of the seven people I'm around the most,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why am I not getting that kind of cash you're getting? Right? Why am
Yeah.
I not finding the thing that makes me the kind of cash they have?
Okay.
Because I don't want what they have. I want my
Right.
own, right?
Right.
And it came down to, well, that's not why you're in the business. That don't make no sense, right? Because why are you if you're not making money, why are you in business? I'm like,
Yeah.
if you it's a common sense question, right?
Was it just because you were doing so many different things that it was because you were best selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why wasn't it making the money if it was I mean, I know we talked before about how the best selling label doesn't actually mean anything about money,
Right.
but like
Mm-hmm.
um so was it just that you were constantly reinvesting what you were making into the next thing that it didn't accrue or was it not selling as much as your friend's stuff was selling that you weren't getting there?
It wasn't selling because I didn't know who I was,
Mhm.
so I didn't know who my audience was.
Okay.
And I was doing a lot of scattershot
Mhm.
thinking that the issue was, oh, I'm just simply not finding the right people. And it is. But the reason is because I didn't know who I was talking to.
Okay.
I didn't know who I wanted to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't facing the truth that what I do is niche. What I do is
Mm-hmm.
very specific. What I
Mm-hmm.
do is not going to be mass selling. It will be cult.
Mm-hmm.
It will be pulp. And I had to let that dream of being big and mainstream die.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hard death because I was holding on to it because this was what was happening with all my friends.
Right.
It's my version. It's my asexual old ass version of all my friends are getting married and I'm still single. It's
Yeah.
that. I'm never worried about that. This is the thing I worry about. And so what do you do when you realize that all your friends are getting married and you're not? You ask yourself, well, do I really want to be single?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to phase through your family going, of course you do, and you're gonna be a Spencer, and don't you want children? And when you gonna give me grandbabies? All right, and you got to work through all of that to get to no. I do want to be in a relationship, but I don't want children, and I want a dog, and I want to keep bees, right? And you get through that by once again facing the truths about yourself and
Mm-hmm.
approaching them in yourself with empathy and with kindness and with truth and with anti-greed. And the anti-greed comes in being happy with what you have, being who you find yourself to be, right? And not worrying about those other markers for those other people because they don't belong to you.
It's so hard though.
Child,
When you see other people who are doing the same things you're doing,
girl,
it's just
it makes you
like
want to
don't
cry.
compare, don't compare, don't
Right,
compare, don't
right,
compare. But
right,
like
right.
everybody else is comparing too. Like, so
And that's why I'm telling you, taking care of your moneymaker, part of that is truly not comparing. And the way that I found that best fights that is focusing on who you are and the steps you need to do what you need to do, right?
mm-hmm.
Like Bill Belichick said, do your job, focus
Yeah.
on your job, right? Focus on your job and focus on who you are and what you need. And what I need is cards and dice
Mm-hmm.
and role playing games and world building. That's I love world building more than any kind of writing I could do. So how do you make money world building?
Mm-hmm.
You make games because all games are the opposite of books, truly. A book is a world open up for you that you go into, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
meet the characters. Games, especially role playing games, is the world and you are the character, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to write prose. I don't have to tell you what happened, right? It's not my story, it's only my world. You go in there and you go tear shit up and tell me what happened.
Well, that's kind of why I started leading into the cozy sort of stuff
Mm-hmm.
because they're more world and they're more character, and I am more interested in the character and how the character grows and how characters interact with each other than I am in what they do.
Right.
Like that's been the biggest,
Yes.
note that I get from alpha readers and beta readers is like, okay, so I love this person, but they're not doing anything. Like, why are they not? There's no conflict because they never go anywhere. They never do anything. They just like they're funny and they're interesting and but they're not. They need to be challenged, and I am not providing them with challenges so that they can grow. Is the biggest like whatever with my so I'm like all right, so I'm just sort of leaning into the cozy genre because people are more open to a slower start
Yes.
usually in that kind of area, but I also really like tropes and elements of like urban fantasy and stuff, so I'm just like, why can't I have a magical world that takes place in a big city but isn't about people attacking each other with swords or guns or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want the magic. I
Right.
don't need it to be in the tiniest town in the history of tiny towns.
Right.
Um, but I don't need a pet cat, and I don't need a talking owl, and I don't need. I would like it to take place in a city, but I would like it to be more about like their personal growth and their friendships and their relationships and like living in the city, but there's magic.
Yes.
Can I have a cozy urban fantasy, please?
Yes. And here's the thing, you can, but there's a cost.
Yeah, nobody else knows it exists.
Exactly. And so then, instead of changing what you do or writing to the market, because
Yeah.
some folks are, there are folks,
Right.
there's folks that make it look easy,
Yeah.
right? I am enthralled watching them,
Yeah.
right? But that's not me, right?
No. I am thinking that I might, once I get this trilogy finished,
Uh-huh.
I might adopt a one for them, one for me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've heard some interviews with actors where they'll do one movie that they don't really care about, but it's a big budget and whatever because they know it's going to sell and that pays for them to do the smaller things.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I was doing Kindle Vella and I started with the draft that became Unmagical, it went, people read it, it was whatever. And then I was like, well, this is, if I'm going to try and get bonuses off of Kindle Vella, then I need people reading it. And if people are going to read, I need to write the kind of thing that people on Kindle Vella read.
Right.
So I went and looked at like what other kinds of things they did. And I was like, all right, I don't think I can write a full on like romantasy or fantasy romance. And I try not to roll my eyes when I say it, but I just don't feel that stuff.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I'm going to write this paranormal romance, but it's going to be like a satire or a spoof. And I'm just going to make it as ridiculous as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And then just tell people like, it's supposed to be funny. Like it's whatever.
Right.
And so I wrote that and my betas read it. They're like, it's not as ridiculous as you think it is. They're like, it's not a spoof. It's actually pretty close to right on where you're supposed to be. And I'm like, okay, but you can't write something when you're looking down your nose at it. So like, I'm trying not to like find that whatever. So anyway,
right. I get it. They get it. Because this is, when I talk about greed, this is what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. We're talking about either like reaching and grasping as something that just doesn't belong to you, or looking at these successes and these skills, and instead of being enthralled and being activated and being like looking at it as a thing of beauty, you look at it as an indictment on yourself. And that is not it. That's not the move. Right. That is greed.
Yeah.
Thinking that, oh, this thing that is so beautiful, but because it isn't mine, it's nothing. Yeah. That's greed. And we all do it. Okay, that's why it's anti-greed, because it's something that's in us and we're all fighting against it, right? So I'm showing you this truth so you can identify it and kind of get around it. Right.
Well, and I think that I started that story from not a great place because I was like, I'm going to write this thing that this is what people want. Right. And then the more I got into it, the more I got into like, okay, well, how do I throw more tropes out of it? How do I make it sillier? How do I add more humor? And I actually started having a really good time writing it. And it was like, I was just like, it's a puzzle that I'm trying to figure out, like what needs to go in there to make it. And it did better than anything else I've ever put. Like that story paid for my editor for Unmagical. Nice. And I was like, that is not something I ever would have thought to write, except that my critique partners are all people who write romantasy, and they were like, they had been pushing me to put more romance in my book, and I was like pushing against it. I was like, all right, if you want me to try romance, I'm going to try it, but I'm going to try it in a separate piece, in something different, because Kate is not a romantic person.
Right. And I get that. And I'm about to go on a rant about romance writers, and it's not what you think.
Okay.
All right. I cannot stand, and I do not abide romance writer hate. A romance book hate. I don't.
Right?
I don't. Ew. And let me tell you why. Because the woman I love the most, my grandmother, highly educated, smart, gentle woman, right? Her and her educated friends read a romance novel every night. Those little 5 3/4 by 7.5 books. read a full one every night, and they would trade them, right? It was like Pokemon
Yeah.
cards. Do you have this one? Do you have
Right.
that one? Yeah, want this one, right? And the librarian used to sit up there, and all the new romances went out first, and folks were running and getting them. Like, remember when we had Blockbuster and folks are like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
new
yeah.
sneaker or whatever? Like when the
Right.
new Harlequin dropped, everybody was at the library trying to get it, right? It would romance books are a deep part of my culture.
Right.
Living in the Black culture in Cleveland, Ohio, in the 70s and 80s, romance novels were a big part of that because a lot of us read, right?
Oh no, well my mom had a stack like in her
Right.
closet. This like and she it was huge and she would go through it and she would take us to the library a couple times a week and she was
Mhm.
trading out her and she was definitely reading those kinds
And
and
yet they
and her
get
mother
so
read them and
right.
I just don't get like I don't look down at it. I don't like
Hmm.
there's whatever. I just don't get it. And I think
Not everyone
I've
will.
had a bit of an awakening in the last couple of years to where I think I'm demisexual and I just didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
So like because when I was growing up and my friends were like all hooking up and whatever and I didn't date
Looking
like
around like, all right.
and I was like I don't understand. And people are like, oh so and so is so hot and I didn't other than like that means somebody is aesthetically pleasing. It
Right.
didn't mean anything to
Yes.
I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess I understand that why you think this person is hot because like
Hmm.
aesthetically they're attractive, sure, but like I didn't get the attraction, like I don't.
Right. What
And
do
it
you do with that
wasn't
information? Because I'm
right.
just like, cool.
No, I was in my like 30s before I figured out that when people say somebody's hot they're actually feeling attraction to that person and I was like,
What?
wait, there's what?
Yes.
I don't what?
Yes.
I don't feel that
Right.
at all.
Right.
um and like I would occasionally like growing up I would get crushes on people that I was if we were really good friends,
Hmm.
then I would start to get a crush on them. And then by the time I would be ready to like maybe I should make some kind of move because that's what people seem to do, they're already in some other relationship because I'm in the friend zone
Right.
because it took me like
Forever.
months to realize that I ever had any kind of interest in them.
Right.
um so yeah, so I think that's kind of and that's coming out I think as I've been writing Kate that like I don't know how to put her in a relationship because I don't know like people are like, oh, she's a new adult character and she's college and whatever, so there's certain expectations and I'm like,
I don't know
I
what
didn't
they
see
are.
anybody in college.
I don't know what they are. I just don't know. And no, seriously, and that makes sense because I'm asexual, and
Yeah,
what that means is that I choose. I don't crave.
yeah.
Right. So yeah, I was the same way. Folks would be straight up crushing on me, and I'm just like,
Right, no idea.
no idea, none. And so I never really got it. But in those romance books, you get a feeling and an idea, but it just
Mhm.
didn't. Nothing got blowed up, or there was like no shooting, so I really wasn't
Right.
in it. But I cannot deny, and I will not deny several things about romance that folks it's it's feel good juice like no other. Romance
Mhm.
novels, and don't matter who reading them, and by extension, soap operas as well. They're feel good juice that's like no other. That gets that serotonin going like no other. Number one. Number two, if you want to look at the bleeding edge of any kind of technology or any kind of book publishing, you look to the romance
Mhm.
because they always own it. Always on it. And this was especially so when I came into publishing in 2015, 2016, but this was also brought out by This American Life of all things.
Okay.
The most open and inclusive, as in welcome to our space genre, is also romance. The best selling is romance. And yet, folks want to dog it. And yet, folks want to call it not literature or trash or not real books. And yet, people want to
I
look
mean, most
down
of
on it.
traditional publishing lives on the back. Like, if they didn't have romance, that they would not be able to sell the other stuff. Like, they know
No,
they can't.
nothing. No, nothing. That's why Even big writers go dip their toe in a little bit of romance,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because not everybody is rocking with Stephen King anymore. Not everybody is rocking with Dean Koontz anymore. Not
Right.
everybody is rocking with George R. R. Martin, right?
Hmm.
For several different reasons, right? Okay, I'm like, there's phases that come and go in sci-fi and fantasy and urban fantasy, right? There's
Hmm.
trends and there's things that you chase in the market. Romance is romance. And while there are trends and markets that you have to go within there, the core of it is still the same. It's that
Yeah.
still that dime novel, and it will always be good, right?
Hmm.
So that's my romance rant. There are, I will always have deep respect. Now, are there bad characters and bad players and bad practices and folks who really need to clean up their act? Yes, 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 and yes. And we work on those things and we see those things clearly, all right? But even then, romance. Romance. I will always be ten toes down for romance and romance writers because much like the rest of the industry, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them.
Hmm.
Right? So I had to say that, and now I'm gonna. But but honestly, it goes back to telling yourself the truth. Now, what had happened if you hadn't sit up there and been honest with yourself about what you didn't want to write and what you did want to write and why you were even writing? What was the name of this Vela series that you're talking about?
The devil in the details was so I split it up into like four acts, and each act was a different. So one of them was enemies to lovers, he's her boss, and one of them was he's a demon and she's a witch.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of them was a fairy tale retelling, and it had a bunch of references to like Beauty and the Beast and the Wizard of Oz and like all of stuff like that. And then one of them was a second chance romance, and one of them was it was a love triangle with a shifter and a demon, but the shifter was a cat because I thought it was funny.
Sorry. That's
I was like, cause like there was all this build up to figuring out that this character was a shifter, and everybody like you're supposed to think while you're reading it that like, well, obviously it's going to be a whole werewolf vampire situation, and then he's a tabby cat.
cute. Only thing that was in my mind, his in my head, canon, his name is now Morris.
His name is Leo.
That's even better. Okay. But if you hadn't sitting there and told yourself those truths, you wouldn't have gotten to the devil's in the details and you wouldn't gotten your
Right.
money to
Yeah.
edit Unmagical, right?
Right.
And you wouldn't have written Unmagical,
Yeah.
right? So being aware of who you are, exposing and facing the exposure of the truth about yourself, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So we're a couple of ace women.
Right. Yeah. No, like what I learned from writing that one is that I probably can write romance if I want to, but I have to. I am not at a place yet where the characters are going to be as deep
Effusive.
as the characters. It's going to be more of a um, surface level
Mm-hmm.
kind of story where it is more about the plot. And that's okay.
Right.
It's going to be punny, and it's going to be like a bunch of like weird references to random um like other movies and TV shows and whatever, and it's going to be punny and silly and follow the tropes and whatever, because I can see the patterns
Right.
and I can make the patterns happen,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't feel what those characters are supposed to feel, so it's hard for me to write them in a deeper way,
Mm-hmm.
like when I write Kate, because those characters are all me in
Right.
some kind of way.
Right. For me, romance is all about connection because much like you, didn't date like that.
Yeah.
Everybody, I've been married 3 times. All right. And the better relationships in my life started off as friendships
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I don't even look at anybody initially romantically.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I look and see, can I deal with you? Can I talk with you? Are you able to withstand it emotionally and mentally when I tell you clear truths about myself and that opens up clear truths within yourself? And can you push through your ego and fear of rejection long enough to tell me, hey, yo, this hurt me, or hey, yo, this is how I feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that? If you can't do that, then I can't deal with you. And if I can't deal with you, we sure shouldn't dating. So that's where I've always approached it from. So like the romance between Mama Ray and Clancy is based on the fact that they worked with each other for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then she realized she had feelings for him, and she's really young, right? She
Mm-hmm.
had just turned, when we did this flashback, when we talked about it, she had just turned 18 and he had rejected her. It's like, you were young,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he couldn't let go of the fact that this amazing hunter, like this top tier hunter, thought he was valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And there was years they were separated, and it wasn't until the judge had her killed that he just kind of realized that you're the one for me. And that was many, many years later,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's one of those things where it's about connection through working together, and then realizing, like you said later on, that, oh yeah, this is, in other words, everybody in my house is asexual. But it also makes sense in the theme because of anti-greed. If we as a nation push to be anti-greed, the issues that we have with things like sexual assault and sexual crimes and transphobia and homophobia would diminish greatly. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't take it away completely because there'll always be greed, but it would lower it because all those crimes are taking something that you think you're entitled
Yeah,
to,
it's
but you're really not.
possession. It's a possession thing.
It's a possession thing, it's a power thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why a lot of people have problems with consent because they don't want to hear no. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be rejected,
Yeah.
right? So they take. And all of this comes from, at its core, some kind of fear of rejection,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you're going through anti-greed, yeah, of course you're going. Not everyone is asexual, but
It would be so much easier if they were, though.
child, they would be. But when you approach things with, "I am not entitled to it," and you are capable of accepting a no,
Mm-hmm.
and how to respectfully negotiate to still get that serotonin hit that you're after, relationships get built instead of trauma. And so that's the viewpoint I take with this, how that feels very asexual to me when it's actually anti-greed. How was your week?
It was good. So last week I felt very, like, not anxious, but I felt like there was a lot that needed to get done, and I felt very, like, I don't know. And then this week has definitely slowed down. I feel like I'm coming to, and it's, I don't know if it's just, that's the message that I've been getting from the cards a lot too.
Mm.
This week has been like, we're reaching completion. It's the end of a phase. I was going through the newest beta comments and they're all positive. I'm like, I might be done. I'm running out of stuff to fix. um, so
Whoops, what happens next?
like, oh, okay, I'm done a couple days early. So like I went back in and was like, all right, so I should at least like read through it and make sure that all the changes that I made this last go through still make sense, and like it still flows and whatever. So I'm doing that, but yeah, I think all the biggest changes that we're gonna make have been caught and have been fixed. So um and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. I have one of my beta readers sent me a voice message over Instagram, and she was just talking about how grateful she was for the opportunity and how much she really liked the book and how excited she was to be reading it. So I was like, wait, I know this email address, and then I went and looked at it, and I was like, oh, you're my favorite beta reader. Like, because she's the one that goes in and is like, she like, not, I like to feel like I don't need this, but
Yikes.
because I'm a teacher and I know, whatever, but she goes in and does the sandwich method almost every time. It's like, this is
Oh,
great, this is the thing that needs to get fixed, this is also great, and it makes me feel so good. And I'm like, yeah, I guess there's a reason why I was supposed to use that with my students when I'm giving them feedback. it does. Makes me feel really good.
Yes.
So I commented back to her on Instagram. I let her know. I was like, I just want you to know that I really appreciate the way you give constructive criticism with positive reinforcement. Like, it's it's fantastic. Makes me feel real good about myself when I start thinking that the book sucks. So that was overall a positive experience. So I'm almost done with that. So I started going in and collecting all of the lost threads that didn't get picked up from book one, and there's a few that aren't getting picked up, that are not going to get picked up in book two, that I know need to get addressed. Mm-hmm. And so I made a list of these are the things that book three has to accomplish. And then I went and looked up, because I had written out a chart outline thing for book three. Mm-hmm. And so I did that before I wrote book two. So I went back today and looked at that to see if it still makes any kind of sense after book two has been written. Like, does it change? And I think it does. I think a lot of it still makes sense, but I need to work in the things from this checklist now into that outline, because the outline is the basic plot of what that story was supposed to be about, but it also needs to address all these other things, because book three is meant to be a conclusion of this section of the story. And then it's going to be open to like an ongoing series after that, but the first three books are supposed to be one arc. So I need to close that off. So I started looking at that. And then, speaking of the romance stuff, one of the things that people have been asking for is I have these two characters who were separated at the end of the first book. There's a whole time travel thing and whatever. So this girl got sent back in time, and then they tried to rescue her. And when they rescue her, she's aged. And so she and the guy that she's in love with are both in the present day, but he is his regular age, and she's a couple decades older now. And so we have to figure out how to resolve that problem. So I told people, I don't think that story fits in the main books. It definitely doesn't fit in book two. Right. It might fit in book three, but they want it sooner than that. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start writing a time travel romance novella, I guess. Time travel romance novella, what's it called? Companion book. Right. That is not part of the main sequence, but it's a side story of these two characters, because apparently people love them more than I thought they were going to. I love them. They're great people, but I wasn't expecting them to take off as much as people are like, but what happened to Elspeth? And I'm like, I don't know. Stuff happened. They are a cute couple, but so now I got to go watch all of the River Song and the Doctor edits, and so that I can get my head into the right kind of vibe for writing a time travel romance.
Oh, you don't want to read the Highlander books?
I don't. Was there romance in the Highlander? I watched the Highlander when I was a teenager, but I didn't.
This is such an asexual conversation.
I don't know. No, I did read the first Outlander book. The first Outlander book I read.
Yes, Outlander. That's what I meant.
I thought Highlander. There can be only one.
Yes, I confused the two.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, they're doing a remake of that. Apparently,
yes,
they're making a new movie. So I'm excited. I watched the show, the Highlander show, when I was a teenager. Yeah. And I guess there was maybe a romance in that. I was watching that, and then I was watching Moonlight. There's a vampire who's a detective, and he lives. There was a bunch of movies in that, or TV shows at that time period about men that live forever. I don't know what that was about.
that was going all the way back to Beauty and the Beast with Ron Perlman.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I know Outlander is probably conceptually a closer comp to what I need to write right now.
Yeah.
But it's way steamier than I want to go, and it's way darker than I want to go, because there was sexual assault in there, and it was there was a lot of stuff in there that I was not expecting when I first read it, and I only read the first one because I was like, nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was in this for the time travel and the Celtic stuff, and I was not in this for that other stuff.
Right. I wasn't in it for the greed.
So that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm much more like River and the Doctor. Kind of like, we're
That
just in the wrong place at the wrong time and we can never actually be together.
oh man. Oh,
Any actual romance happens off stage. It's all flirting and silliness.
but they're deep feelings
But
though.
there are deep feelings in there somewhere.
Right. Whew. So, what are you liking this week?
I don't know. That's I've been watching a lot of River and the Doctor TikTok videos.
Oh,
So because I'm trying to get back into that. Like I didn't know how I knew the fandom was broad. I did not know as how broad the fandom was until I started going into TikTok, and I was like, whoa.
yeah, it's been around for 50 years.
Right. I mean, I knew. I didn't know people were like creating these like videos that were like the edits and stuff. I'm new to. I've only been doing TikTok for like a few months, and
Oh,
so like the idea that edits exist of
oh, okay.
all kinds of things, I'm just like, what is that? It's like fan fiction, but set to music.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my good word. Yes, there are some amazingly innovative and creative people on TikTok. And
Yeah.
if you want to see the height of the creativity on TikTok, look up the Adult Swim um trend.
There's a trend.
A
I mean, I
trend.
watched Adult Swim shows on the when it was Cartoon
Yes.
Network was doing its thing, but
Exactly. That's the one we're talking about. Look
okay.
up Adult Swim trend
I'm making
on
a note.
TikTok and you will see some of the best that TikTok had to offer in terms of innovation and creativity. That
Okay.
trend was top tier. It really was.
Okay.
And all it was is people doing things around a bumper that sounds like it would have played on Adult Swim and finding
Okay.
creative ways of including the Adult Swim logo and the stuff. So it looks like one of those bumpers
Oh, okay.
before the commercials. Amazing. Just
Oh,
so
that sounds
good.
really fun. That's really cool. Oh, I remember what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
The trailer for Agatha All Along came out.
Yes. Oh, woo.
Also,
And it looks like
also,
Wizard of Oz.
it was so, and it was amazing. And also, can I tell you that when I went back into my notes for the outline for book 3 that I wrote a year ago,
Uh-huh.
I referenced Agatha All Along in those notes.
Yeah.
I was like, and now I'm gonna write it. And the show, I'm like, that could not have lined up better.
Right.
that show's gonna be out while I'm writing it.
I know. And then on top of that, they are they're carrying the stuck in a TV theme all
Yeah,
through it. And it looks
yeah.
like they're basing it on the Wizard of Oz.
I think it does look like that. And then Patty LuPone, so there might be music. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna
I
be.
hope. I hope. Because all of them want something, and you go down the richest road to get the thing you want the most. And yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like Wizard of Oz.
It sounds a lot like the Wizard of Oz.
And I'm here for it, child. I
I
am
am.
here
Yeah.
for it.
And Aubrey Plaza playing some kind of terrifying witch. Like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, yes. And I love how the opening was like Mayor of what it was like Agatha
Yeah.
Waretown. It was like Mayor of Waretown. And
Yeah.
it all gritty as shit. It all
Right. Right.
so good.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked so good. I was and the like the cinematic the quality of it was really high. Like just that it looked like a movie and I was like, oh, that's so exciting.
Mhm. You loving Agatha? Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it right now.
Okay, cool. I'm going to talk about, I'm loving a lot of stuff. But let me tell you what I'm really loving this week. I am really, as you may know, I'm a sports ball fan. And my favorite sports ball is football. And my favorite sports ball football team are the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns have a tradition of losing, but they also have a very, very weird tradition of being incubators for greatness. Look at LeBron James. Look at all of these things. And then also take a look at Bill Belichick because he was our head coach when Art Modell stole them and took them to Baltimore. And his coaching tree Bill Belichick's coaching tree is vast. A coaching tree is, well, the coaches that trained you, you were on their
Mm-hmm.
tree, and the coaches you train on their tree. Okay, so Bill Belichick is in Bill Parcells, the legendary coach Bill Parcells' tree, right?
Okay.
And so you know Bill Belichick. There's an interesting little branch off of Bill Belichick's tree, and that's this guy named Brian Daboll. And I have been I met quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, something like that for Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was familiar with him because he also worked at Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a couple of this is a cat who is he's very charming, extremely sweet, bit of a dick, but it's kind of like he is like the typical like really good short guy who's like really good at his job, but it like people pick on him,
Okay.
and he also hates to be looked at. He hates to be looked at, and I'm not saying that by like knowing him because I do not know the man. I have met him, and this is what I know from meeting him, right?
Okay.
And as also this is like 2009, so there's been a long period of time, right, between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been following his career, and that thing is held steady through this entire thing. Why is that relevant, you SCK? Well, there's this show a Max called Hard Knocks where they sit up there and they follow a team throughout the season, right?
Okay.
And this season on Hard Knocks, they're not doing a season, they're doing the off season and showing Joe Scholl, the general manager of the New York Giants, as he finishes up the season and starts working on getting talent for the next season, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a reality show. They're following that
Okay.
cat around. And do you know? Go ahead, ask me who's the head coach of the New York Football Giants?
Who is the head coach, CK?
My internet boyfriend, Brian Daboll. My internet football boyfriend, Brian Daboll. That's who it is. And when I tell you, that dude looked at every camera on that show. I'm like, he was always checking for the cameras, right? So they're having a conversation, and you can see his eyes go boop right at the camera. And then boop, and he'll try to shift so he is like not like there, like he's not the focus. And you'll see it if you watch him on the draft, he's like looking for the cameras. And on this show, they try to put him in there because he's a head coach, but he's just like he's looking at the cameras too, like stop looking at the cameras, man. Stop looking at the we know you're there. You know you're there. Stop, right? All right. The only time so far he has just dead eyed into the camera is when he's talking about football, and they're showing how at the combine, which is one of many auditions that leads up to the draft when football players are chosen, and he's interviewing these young players, and the camera is dead on him, and he ain't paying attention to it at all, and you see exactly why he got to be head coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you stop talking about it, and all of a sudden it's that again. I'm like, stop looking at the camera. Stop looking at the camera. So that's the thing I'm loving this week. I would have alcohol poisoning if I did this, but I think I'm gonna do one episode where every time I see him look to see where a camera is, I like maybe not take a shot because I would die,
Have
but
a sip.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's how I have a sip every time, and I would be so drunk by the time whatever second show we're gonna watch comes on, because that dude he has no chill about these fucking cameras.
That's funny.
So what are we trying to get done this week?
Okay, so I am by Monday. I gotta send this off, so I think it's done. Um, I also want to pull the trigger on some of the merch for my book boxes.
Nice.
I did go ahead and order the boxes, and I ordered some character art postcards
Mm-hmm.
from Vistaprint.
Oh, nice.
So that is on its way. So now I need to start looking for. I think I am going to do a charm bracelet. So I need to find a blank bracelet, and then I can either make or order the charms that are going to go on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to make the bracelet. So I need to find somebody that sells just a blank bracelet that I can put stuff on. And then when I go to the Science Museum this weekend, I had told her that I wanted to make charms and stuff. Zaina, who is in charge of, and she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Oh, we have like dog tags and we have little metal things and we can use the laser etcher to." And I was like, "Okay, so that's what we're gonna try this week."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna finish those and then get a maybe a leather strap to put on it, like a string for the necklace. And then I think I'm just gonna order some Ankh charms to put on it.
Right.
But I want to try to I want to get some of those things actually moving this week, I think. So I need to research and order the bracelets and the Ankh charm, and then like Sunday, I'm just gonna go to the bed and play around in the makerspace and see what I can do to make this thing look better, and
Right.
learn how to do the same thing with metal.
Did you look up the PMC, the precious metal clay?
I was looking at it, and she made a face like she didn't know what I was talking about, and I was like, "Well, let's do the laser etching first because she knows how to do that,
Right.
and then for the PMC clay, I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna make a mold of something, it should be 3-dimensional, and this is 2D.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of what I want to put in there that'll be 3D that I would use the clay for, because it does sound like fun.
Right. It really is. Give some more thought to that.
Yeah.
And if you need me to research some things or look some stuff up, hit me up. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's dead easy once you get used to it.
Okay.
All right. Ooh, what am I doing this week? I'm putting, now that I know how to put the stuff up on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 episodes are going to go up, and finally got that website, so it's uploading episodes. Let me see. Yes, I finally got it to where it's on the website.
Okay.
And yeah, I thought I had it. Well, that's what I'm working on this week.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, because it's starting to appear that this is going to be something where I'm going to have to link to Spotify.
It's fine. I'm not in a hurry because we were saying we were gonna bank a bunch of them first anyway, right?
Right.
So
And what's happening is that they're on Spotify, and they have a timer on them. They're set to launch
okay.
to a certain time. So if you want me to concentrate on getting the episodes on Spotify and other players,
Okay.
if you want that as a priority, and I think I want that as a priority, because this is really burning up a lot of time when I could have them on iHeartRadio, Apple Radio, and
they can be up. Yeah.
they can be up. And then I'll do that, and then I'm going to switch this from perhaps a website to the YouTube channel, and then link to YouTube channels to the site.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Okay, that
yeah, because you could embed a YouTube video into your website.
Yeah,
probably easier.
Right. Okay. That's what I'm doing. Then I will make that the priority with the podcast.
Okay.
And otherwise, I'm going to build a play test for the game.
Yay!
For Medusa's Trucking, and I am so excited. And because not only we're making Medusa's, but she is actively in development for her road rally game. There you go.
Does that game have a name too, or no?
No, not right now.
Okay.
But she's developing it. And because, once again, we're pulling from the SRD, it'll be her game.
Okay.
And I'm really excited because I want to make games with my friends. Kit wants to sit there and get on Critical Role. And I'm like,
she wants to
get on Critical Role. And I'm like, why not? We can make that happen.
Yeah.
That's a thing that is doable. And it's actually, she's far closer than she thinks she is.
Really?
Yeah.
You know people?
Well, it's a combination of that, and this will be her second game she's worked with me. And she is quite active in those spheres, and she is quite active in the fandom.
Okay.
Right? And she's incredibly supportive. She's incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly sharp. Right? And I can't imagine it not happening for her, especially when she has games that she can point out and say, see, let me do the same thing for you.
Thank you.
And so that's what's really exciting me about this is that within for this time next year,
Hmm.
she'll have a body of work that she can point to and say,
Hmm.
"Well, I've done this,
Hmm.
so if you need help, hey."
Yeah.
And it takes so little to be truly helpful for folks. It really is. So it just does my heart good. All right, then. Any last words before we chuck off?
Well, I appreciate you, saving some time for me because I know you have a lot of things to do. So, thank you very much.
And I
Um,
appreciate you doing this with me because I don't like doing things alone. like I don't. I wanna do things with my friends. I
yeah,
make Monster Hunter books with my friends, and now I make podcasts with my friends, and this is what I want. This is
that's good.
success to me.
Yay. This has been so much fun. I mean, I don't laugh as much as I do. It's so fun.
So good. Thank you for this. I mean, really, thank you for this. And I'm gonna let you go and I'm eat some breakfast. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.